on. The attendees may like to put their questions in the Q&A section, and if time permits, we might be able to take a couple of questions at the end. All the speakers may feel free to speak in Urdu or English as deemed appropriate and suitable. With your permission, this meeting will be recorded and also going live on Facebook as well as our YouTube channel. So just to give you a background of the topic that we have selected today, as a student of energy and public policy, for my own understanding, I usually think of the problems being faced in Pakistan as basically a goal-setting problem. We normally start the initiatives with very high aims, and the direction initially is very good, but probably due to political interventions, coordination issues, lack of inclusiveness, some of these interventions, the main goal gets somehow diluted. So just to discuss this and just to understand what CTBCM is and how CTBCM evolved around the world, what are the failure stories, what are the success stories, and how can Pakistan actually learn from the mistakes of other mistakes and lessons that have been learned around the world, and how can we apply it to make this model even better and adaptively improve it going forward. Just taking this forward, I'll just pinpoint the bullet points that were sent to the esteemed speakers for today. The main objectives for the discussion today, number one is to perform a comparative assessment of competitive market in Pakistan with the global models and best practices, to map the role of relevant stakeholders in Pakistan under the CTBCM model, and to discuss the opportunities, threats, and challenges for CTBCM as an electric market reform in Pakistan. I'll just like to introduce the August panel we have today. I'll start off with Dr. Fiyaz Chaudhry. He's a professor and Venerable Simmons Chair at the Lahore School of Management Sciences Energy Institute, and a widely known academic and professional expert in the field. He has over 34 years of experience in the power sector, and we really look forward to hearing from you going forward. From the government, we are joined by three very important and busy persons. We are joined by Mr. Imtiaz Hussain Baloch Saab, who is the Director General Licensing Department at NEPRA. Imtiaz Saab is an experienced power sector professional and has a good grip on energy markets. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We are also, we will be soon joined by Mr. Faisal Sharif Wattu, who is the Director's Project Appraisals at the Private Power Infrastructure Board, Ministry of Energy. Faisal Saab has a rich experience in the power sector, and we aim to learn from it, particularly from the electric market side. From the Central Power Purchasing Authority, we are joined by Syed Shahir Ali, who is leading their market development coordination team. We aim to learn further from Shahir Saab with regards to this very important task that CPPA is doing for the electric market reforms. From the private sector, we are joined by Mr. Samir Hassan, who is the Deputy General Manager of K Electric. He has good expertise around finance and also has a keen eye on the electric market. We are also, I think we will be soon joined by Mr. Khurram Lalani, who is the principal at Resource Future Pakistan. And in addition to being our partner in this program, he is a well thought of leader in several energy domains. We will also be joined by Dr. Bakar Ahmed, who is the Joint Executive Director of STPI, and Dr. Hina Aslam, who is heading this project, as well as our research fellow and head of energy unit at STPI. So I think without further ado, I'll request Dr. Fiyaz Ahmed to start with his remarks. Dr. Fiyaz, can you hear me?
Ji, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. if you could give me the control so that I can share my screen.
So, can you try now, sir, please?
G. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, we can see your screen, sir.
Okay, G. Thank you, everyone. And what happened here? So today I'll try to set the stage. I'm sure people sitting at the table, at least half of them, they have been part of the design of the CTBCM model. And so this is an introduction to the CTBCM design. So it's by no means a detailed discussion, just an overview. So I was given this opportunity, and I'll try to introduce what this is all about, and then we can have discussions along the line. So I'll give you a little preamble, and that's high-level design. And everybody most of us aware of that this has already been approved by the design was approved by NAPRA, and also has been approved by Cabinet. And as part of NAPRA, this was mandatory sort of requirement. And the story goes even way back in early 90s when this concept was considered, but somehow we kept on delaying its implementation, and it has now become a part of national electricity policy as well. So as far as consultation from or how we actually come up with this design. So MRC being the consultant for this project, so they proposed a design, and it has been debated over 2 years before NAPRA accorded its approval. Then this design was also reviewed by the market operator of Turkey and Brazil PSR, and also at LUMS, whatever capability we had here at LUMS Energy Institute. So this model was reviewed at our institute as well, and a special committee formed by SACP, and then together myself and the person Omar Malik, who is leading this activity at CPPA, together we visited, and also he visited other independent market or system operators. So we made a joint trip to Canada as well as to USA. So a lot of consultations have already happened, and so many people have already been trained at LUMS, through electricity market professionals. So this is the picture. This was, I believe, the very first program. It was 2018, but successively we hosted a few more sessions, and the next session is planned soon, maybe before Ramadan or after Ramadan. So this is the sort of transition happened over the last few years. For the last 5 years, this effort has been going on. So I'll concentrate on the basically CTBCM commercial operation date, which is we are all hoping for is May 22. So people are aware of most of the history. So I will not waste any time there. So let's have a little overview. So there are like Alberta, if you go from left, AESO, New York ISO, then AESO. So we visited these myself along with and Umar and his team. They visited many other market structures. So the overall theme, or the concern was, because since we are doing this, first time in Pakistan, are we choosing the right path? Are we structuring ourselves according to the international practices? And based on those, we believe that CTBCM model, it's a very good starting point. So there are many services that the international markets are offering, but for us, step by step, we have to go a long way. But we do have the knowledge base of now different markets, and so that's why we are choosing a very cautious approach and implementing this electricity market structure bit by bit. So if you can just although it's a busy slide, but there are many there are primarily two types of pools. Then our market architecture is of different types. Products, trading, either energy, capacity market, or ancillary services, and the pricing mechanisms are also quite diverse, and the contractual arrangements are different, and even the overall market structure is independent system operator, our transmission system operator, independent market operator, net pool, so power exchange. All these are structures are different kinds. So what we chose for ourselves, that is what we have to debate. And the whole idea of this presentation slide is to just provide you a brief that it's every market is quite unique. So we cannot simply copy and paste. We need to see what good for us. Yes, people have different experiences, share, and we need to make our team knowledgeable enough so that they can at least implement this concept efficiently and proactively with the right approach. And as far as wholesale to retail transition is concerned, in Pakistan, what we have decided, that 1 megawatt early on, and whoever the bulk power consumers, BPCs, so they will be given a chance to do bilateral contracts, and maybe over the next 5 years or so, we may get down to half a megawatt, and then may transition into even 0.1 megawatt. That's what the thought process is. But in India, it's they have chosen a 1 megawatt limit, like only the consumers which will have demand more than 1 mega, they will be facilitated. In Brazil, it's 3 megawatt. Philippines, it is again 1 megawatt, 0.75. So that's how the transition is in different countries. So what we chose for ourselves is 1 megawatt. And the what we really want to achieve, this one is, the CTBCM cannot be implemented efficiently if we do not provide open access to all market participants, especially when we are talking about 1 megawatt and more consumers with that sort of demand. And then we need to improve investment conditions in the country, and we want to move away from the sovereign guarantee. So that's the ultimate goal, if we can achieve that. And again, seamlessly, starting from the bulk power consumer, and maybe down the road, 5 years down the road, we may transition into a retail market. For us, integrated system plan is a must. Only through that we can achieve the security of supply, and to make the things affordable. If we do not adopt integrated system and resource plan approach, so we will always be fighting with surplus or deficit, like we have been doing in the past, and even the current situation is we are not out of that yet. Then especially if on the load side efficiency, and also on the market side. So on both places we need to have a very efficient systems and efficient load, so that our that's why integrated system planning is a must, because unless and until you have demand side covered, and otherwise we will keep on supplying peak for few hours, which this country cannot afford. And then payment discipline, transparency on the data and the predictability, so that whoever is participating in the market, the entity should be aware what is coming next and what challenges they will be confronting with. And the transparency is the baseline. So everything has to be controlled through the especially the information which is required to the participants, so that they can make decisions. So so on the generation side, if you look at on the left hand side, this is generation. Well, then who will be the entity who will be making sure that all those objectives are met, which I just spoke about in the previous slide. So in our opinion, we see the independent system and market operators. So those are the people who can ensure transparency and predictability and integrated system planning, and providing an open access. So all those objectives that we listed in the previous slide, this independent, which is not being should not be influenced by anybody. It's only representative of the market and market participants, and providing equitable and level playing field for everyone. Then we will have electricity competition on the electricity, although this transmission and distribution, because this is a wire business, still it will stay for some time as a natural monopoly. Either it does not matter who owns it, federal or provincial, but still it will stay as a natural monopoly. And the electricity supply and first at the bulk consumer level, and then later on at the retail, that's where the competition would be introduced. So generation end at the distribution end. And how the money will flow? The money power will flow from generator naturally to consumers, and money will flow backwards. So that's how but what are the power purchase price is again energy purchase price plus capacity payments that we need to have, because people have done their investments. We need to recover. They need to recover their capital expenditure. So that's where the capacity payments are there. And for operating cost, when we use them, naturally we need to pay energy purchase price. So here we need to reduce both, so that, and that can only be achieved through integrated system and resource planning. Otherwise, sometime we will, if we go into surplus, we will unnecessarily increase our CPPs, and if we do not choose an appropriate energy mix, we will increase our EPP. So we need to have good control and use of system charge will be given to the transmission, and distribution margin will be given to the distribution people, and that's how. So maybe little market operator fee or independent system, that will be very nominal. So that will constitute the overall tariff. With if you include like subsidies, but this is the real cost. But all other are government programs, so they can, if we can improve the overall governance of the countries, we can get rid of some of those subsidies that we have to offer. So for that, naturally, everyone's should, every citizen of this country should have a good buying power, so that we can avoid those. So let me go quickly over the model, because all people are much, they are very knowledgeable, but this is some of the participants. So that's why this presentation was made. So now we are moving from a single buyer, which is a CTPAG, from that regime of a single buyer to which is graphically it is shown like this one: power generation, single buyer, and then we allocate that power to discos. So that's how all consumers are fed. But on the market side, what we want to do, standardize, which is electricity is one commodity that's need to be traded, and who will create the competition? Naturally, if we have a diversified generation mix, and we have buyers who are bulk consumers, so they should be given a first choice for by signing bilateral contracts, and every other organization along the way, they need to facilitate it. And this market will be established on the marginal price, which will as a market clearing prices will be established by the system by the market operator, and they will ensure predictability as well as transparency. And if some participants are trying to use their power to influence the market, that's where independent body and on behalf of the regulator, compliance enforcer will have to do that accountability on behalf of the regulator. So products are energy and capacity, but for early on, what we are considering only on the energy market. And we will be basing our imbalances we will on the hourly marginal price, and for capacity, which will be later on, some part will be introduced even in the beginning, yearly marginal prices. So that's where the imbalances will be settled. So on the wire, on the market participants, all discos, competitive suppliers, which are generators or traders. So this will market participants, and the on the wire business are the regulated bodies, which are market operator, system operator, special purpose trader, independent auction, and NTDC as meeting service provider. So these will be the service provider on the wire business. So here, this is one of them, very important, or rather, the whole structure is basically showed on this slide. So then I'm done with my talk. Power generation competition will be on the blue box, and the balancing and the bilateral contracts will be handled at the wholesale market level, which is independent system operator or market operator. They will be facilitating all this and providing to discos or competitive suppliers or traders down the road. And at the moment, we have 26.6 million consumers, and out of those, about 2,000 bulk power consumers to which this market. But if you consider the size on the energy side, taking into consideration because some of the power generation are there must run, like hydro So they're kind of must run. Then because we have limitation even for the storage due to its outflow. Then on the renewable side, solar, those are must run, and some of the only the which are machines which are fossil fuel based, and like even in our nuclear will be it's a base load plant, so that will be kind of a must run. So the market size on the competition is about 30% or so, and but about 60 odd percent currently, or that you cannot, but only 40% of the energy where you can have this competition. And again, the things which were listed earlier: transmission network operator, meter service provider. So system operator will provide a centrally dispatched, and the market settlement will be done through the market operator. So we can create this as a one organization from the very beginning, or maybe merge them later on. But that's the structure that the world has followed. So this is, everybody knows what the structure today. So we will transition this thing to the structure that we showed before. So how the legacy contracts will be dealt with, a special, because early on this commercial allocation is done, but the new generators will be done through the wholesale market, and that's how the actual functioning of the market will happen. How we will be dealing with the existing PPAs, and how we will be dealing with the new generation coming online. So that's how it is going to serve. So I think I'll have this maybe as a last slide. So I mentioned about the demand forecast and the generation expansion plan and transmission plans. If you combine them together, this will become an integrated system plan, and the new policy even encourages us to only do integrated system plan. The policy is suggesting us to do integrated resource plan, which includes a fuel supply chain as well. And then eventually we will input all these inputs to the integrated energy plan for the country. So this, you will have a procurement plan through independent auction administrator, and then the connection agreements will happen between the generators and the DISCOs and BPCs, as well as with the transmission company. So everyone is going to be responsible for their own work, and it will be overall compliance monitoring at the regulator level, but that can be situated because the eyes and ears will be with ISMO, so that can be established there. So this is a meeting. So what will we gain eventually? So gradually we will move away from the sovereign guarantees. And we will provide a framework, especially, and from take and pay, we want to have take and pay instead of take or pay. Then reduction in power procurement costs, avoiding this boom and bust cycles that we have been living with. We introduced this in late 90s until early 2000, and then in mid teens. That's where, and we are going to live through this, for the next few years. So what we need to do is ease of doing business through IT interventions and improving our DISCOs so that they can improve their customer service, so that they can make our life easy. And I thank you. Sorry for I took maybe 5 minutes more, but the whole panel is there for discussions, and I'll be one of those panelists who can provide you answers And if I don't know, I'm sure there are many learned people on the table, so they will be able to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So just, I apologize, I forgot to mention one of the speakers for today, who is Gul Hassan Bhutto Saab. He is advisor on CTBCM at NEPRA. So now we'll start off with the discussion. Since we have a limited time, and of course everyone will like to, I think, move away from Selena at the moment with the security situation. So I'll request initially if you can keep your initial remarks to a maximum 7 minutes, and then of course we can move ahead. We will be going to the private sector first, and then the government can come in at the end. So let me start with Samir Saab. Samir Saab, if you can go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speaking on this very important topic for the power sector. Unarguably, we think that a CTBCM model, considering the fragile state of the power sector today and the challenges that it faces, it is a step in the right direction. It aims to bring in efficiency improvements along with various structural changes. While it is a step in the right direction, it is also important that a sustainable framework is provided along with it. The policy decisions for implementation, as provided in the National Electricity Policy, the CCOA approved principles for establishment of a competitive wholesale markets, they need to be put into effect in letter and spirit. That's what we think that would actually lead to the results that we are looking for through CTBCM. Regarding the possible prospects and the outcomes of CTBCM, I believe that they would essentially depend a lot on the sustainable framework and decision making. We also need to be considerate towards the fact that there should be consistency in policy making. The policies that are developed, they should and they must ensure balance of interests of all stakeholders. And while these things are important from a policy and regulatory perspective, one thing which, and I would actually like to commend CPPA and NEPRA on that, is the capacity building. The focus on making the sector ready. The readiness of the sector is very important to actually adapt to this all-important change that the power sector is heading towards. So readiness of the sector and entities is important. And along with that, for the readiness to be there, you need to ensure that there are certain decisions that are taken to make, for example, the distribution companies that we have today, they need to be self-sufficient to be able to actually participate well, to be able to drive the results that we are looking for through CTBCM. So these are the things that we must take care of for the results to be there.
Thank you, Samir Saab. I'd like to move now to Khurram Saab. You can go next.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ahad, for giving me this opportunity. So just want to give my my three overarching viewpoints if CTBCM fails to materialize. And I think what we've seen so far is the fact that if I start with, let's suppose, 50 years ago, we would have a very colonial rule. We would have licensing given to players who operate in the market. Essentially, in the power sector today, we don't give out licenses in terms of license charge, as it happens in the sugar industry in Pakistan today. But what happens is that the license regime has been replaced with a contract regime, and the contracts have become very complicated and convoluted. And if you don't really move on to a very competitive, level playing, field-driven market mechanism, what will essentially happen is that what we have seen so far in the contract regime, the kind of complications that arises, it is very difficult to manage those contracts. For example, we have recently seen Mohammed Ali Commission report and the kind of back and forth that happened between the private sector and the government and so on and so forth. And if we continue to operate in the system that we operate in currently, we'll probably be just operating under, a very complicated, contract-driven, PPA-driven market structure, which is not feasible, which is primarily something that there'll always be back and forth between the regulator, the policymaker, and the private sector. So it is absolutely essential to move away from the current predominant contract regime. My second thought is that as Professor
So you mean to say that PPS should be abolished?
No, I don't mean to say that. Okay. My only viewpoint here is that the kind of back and forth that we have seen, and the kind of allegations that we have seen, and these are my predominant thoughts in terms of what has happened so far. And if we continue to operate in this model, there's something that may happen in the future again. So I don't need to say that we just abolish PPAs and just go directly to whatever regime that we want to go, but just leaving a thought. The second point that I want to refer to is what Professor Saab also alluded, is the lack of private sector investment. I mean, there's no single private sector transaction that we can close currently without the help of the government sovereign guarantees. So 30% of the Pakistanis don't have electricity connection. We don't have the kind of grid access that people should have, essentially. But we see that there is no private sector investments. And essentially, I mean, that's something that we all know. If the government doesn't give out private sector its own sovereign guarantee, there is absolutely no way that a transaction can materialize. So for CTBCM, it is absolutely critical that we move away from this, I should not be using this word, but the very big umbrella of sovereign guarantee. And I think we just have to go away with it, make sure that there is a level playing field, and that people should participate and provide grid electricity to people who deserve it, essentially. My third point, and I think what we've seen so far, is the fact that with the current market structure, we have ATC T&D losses of more than 35%, 40%. We have seen massive inefficiencies. We continue to see operational inefficiencies. We know that the regulator always writes in their report the kind of inefficiencies that are there in the system. But obviously, to make enforcements, to go out there in the field and to make sure that things improve gradually over a period of time, that's something which has been completely missing. And obviously, there has to be a nexus where people need to see improvement in their lives through improved service delivery. So my third takeaway is that if we continue to live in the present model, we will for sure, because in the past 70 years has given us this feedback that there will be high AT&C losses, there will be circular debt, there will be high flows, there will be fiscal deficits ballooning out of the payment crisis from the power sector, and hence it is absolutely critical that we again move on to a framework where private sector competes with the consumers directly, and the government has a very limited role in terms of policy making and the regulation itself. So these are my three takeaways. Thank you.
Thank you, Khurram Saab. So we'll now move to Imtiaz Saab from NEPTA.
Thank you very much for your time and for inviting. Should I go with the queries with Radhani Saab has said, or should I say?
अपना भी सर आपका है
अपना view देंगे
उसके बाद आपके इसका भी
My view is
पेशक बंद कर
My view is very simple in the sense that we were operating in the vertically integrated market, and then we at one time thought that this vertically integrated utilities are frankly insufficient, not inefficient and insufficient, both in terms of efficiency and to provide access to these our consumers. And then we started a plan to have these water to be converted into the different segments, like the distribution companies were segregated. The area electricity board were converted into distribution companies. The transmission network and the system operator were combined under the head of National Transmission and Dispatch Companies. And then that plan of 1992 envisaged a regulator also. And at the same time, we thought that there will be a relatively easy investment coming in the private sector in the generation. We started our first policy. All these were basic premise was that we will bring efficiency, we will disintegrate these bigger units, and we'll try to evolve a system with the passage of time, technology, people, all stuff coming in that way. And that was not simply just thinking. There was, frankly, a roadmap was also given in the license for NTDC, which we gave in 2002. There was a very conceptual arrangement, which we are talking now or we are considering now. But unfortunately, we couldn't develop or we could not evolve that. Now we feel that we have reached a stage where if we continue with this practice, it will definitely be it's like a big tank which has a hole in the bottom. We may pump millions of dollars there, but unfortunately that will be drained out. After a very, you can say, rigorous kind of exercise, which Dr. Fayaz has elaborated, we have now come to a conclusion that yes, there are issues also, but we have at least taken the first step by having this competitive trading bilateral contract market. The questionnaire or the working paper, which concept note, which we were given, it elaborates also that we have now the approved IGSAP, whereby almost 22,000 of the capacity is committed, 10,000 is which we will be bringing through competitive, which is actually the candidates, you can say. So I think from very first day, we can't expect that we will have a laissez-faire kind of situation. But it is a vital step in the sense that we will have at least the necessary framework. At least necessary framework will be there. Necessary automation, technology part will be in place. And therefrom onward, we can have, starting from definitely a very concentrated kind of niche kind of market, whereby we are only allowing certain BPCs only, which are the bulk power consumer, not the retail one. So we can expect that if we follow those broad guidelines, we can have a electricity market on the basis of which we can evolve. Definitely it will take time, but we can evolve on that basis. So these are my initial remarks, and we can then continue the discussion.
Thank you.
I think much has been said, but I must appreciate the efforts of SDPI picking up the topic of the CTBCM, which is a new, reality that's getting up. Everybody is upbeat of that one, and then for sure, Not the one session would bring up all the clarities, but multiple sessions on that one. The sector is shifting a paradigm shift. Start इससे करूंगा कि markets are efficient or investors are rational. That's the reality. Now we are talking about the markets. Let's forget about the monopolies. When we said that I'm just taking the lead from Imtiaz, well said points and then well elaborated points of Dr. Fayaz. I will touch upon the angles left and right on that one. We have to get out of the monopoly, go to the markets. That's the reality, that's the law, that's the policy, that's the constitution. Everywhere policy, regulatory and everything defines it. There's no point in time after May we live with the monopoly. So the choice to the consumer is now become the reality. Saying that the wheeling was earlier, saying that now CTBCM, what's the difference? I would say the wheeling was a dot and this is a whole world. How? The complete regulatory framework not starting as it was in Mr. How are we doing right? Are we doing not right? Let's say Philippines NPC, National Power Control was exactly the same wiped out Pakistan. If you go into that one, then they did exactly like that one 1994 wiped out plan. And then people say we are hardly late then from 98 to 22 or we are late by the 20 years now. To make a transition from monopoly to the market, you had to have a law, and the law came in 2018. The moment the law came, that brought two different things, and I'll be answering to that. They didn't say that you go into the contract regime, you get out of the licensing regime. It brought up Section 23 complete. There has to be a multiple suppliers. Section 23, there has to be a multiple traders. There has to be a system operator, there has to be a market operator. On that one, when the law came, NEPRA and the authority, the visionary, especially the chairman, he picked up and they're having the global experience. And then he was aware of the market's dynamics and how the efficiency they will bring. The first kind of in 2018, the design was brought. In 2009, I think that I was not part of NEPRA, it was the Imtiaz and then team that in 2019, a high level design was approved. Then in 2020, then by that time I also joined the NEPRA as an advisor CTBCM, then a high level was, and there started the implementation. The story starts from here. Could we give the choice to the consumer without saying that the competitive supplier license? Have we had a licensing regime there? We had not. So accordingly, the 18 regulations NEPRA has made it published from the 2000 November 20 onward till today, and 5 or 6 are on the basically on the notification. Now the regime will start, saying that there are people having lot of I think apprehensions that would start or would not start. Surely it will start. Reason? You have a huge leap in the regulatory side. I said it in regulation, you have a quantum leap on the policy side. You have a NEP that acknowledges 5.1 complete the market, how the market would be, what would be its feature, and where from we would start. And then the people say wheeling was a fail case, and then CTBCM is the same game. I would say no. Had we had an institutional framework for that one? No, because you could only wheel in one disco with wheeling at one regulation, because if I had to do a wheeling among the discos, then who was the market system operator to ensure the dispatches? And then like Dr. Fayaz said, that I sell to you and you buy from me, and all the times I'm not available, all the times you as an load you are not picking, system is giving you, then who is trading this imbalances? So system operator has to be there, and how the system operator would calculate. We had a merit order of 720 hours, and now we are bringing down to the index of marginal price of hourly. So hourly imbalances. There was an earlier a banking concept. Of course, you sell in. I mean, you buy, you consume in summer, and you you compensate in winter, there is a lot of price difference about something like that one. So your system operator is an institutional framework that the CTBCM is. Okay, we sold it among ourselves, and then have he in the past have he had a settlement house over there? No, we had not. And the now market operators, so-called existing CPPA, would be dealing with the legacy contract and the, like in the presentation, as a service provider that would not be having the commercial interests, but would be providing the services, the market operator, an entity being carved out. Current CPPA is a registered entity under the NAPRA Act 25A. There would be a market operator, would be a Section 23A AB, a license activity, first ever in the Pakistan that the license of market operator would be there. What he would be doing? Nothing, only market. He would be registering that the Boto is coming to sell and Faisal is coming to buy. There has to be a registration, market participation agreements, the enrollments, and everything. This structure was missing. That's the institutional part. Accordingly, on the models, your concept already says that more or less our model ground, Dr. said that keeping in with the ground reality, we have had a central dispatch system already in place, and then we had a security constraint economic dispatch. We are continuing with this one. This is the model which is largely implemented to, that improves the efficiency. It doesn't mean in previous wheeling regime, like if Faisal and Bhutto had to contract, that was not supposed to a central dispatch. That was a self-scheduling. Even the inefficient generator could be dispatched. That would have raised, not benefited to the system. When you're putting into we are going into the bilateral contract, I have to be conscious that I would be into central gather, so I'll be bringing a efficient generation. If not, then the system generation would be given by that one with the choice, with the efficiency given over there. And the ATC, I would give a, since the decades we are in the posted stamp method of the losses and all together. The moving ahead are the transition to the zonal, to the nodal, and then all together that would be in long term from the market perspective, bringing the efficiency on that side. So I would say 25 years penning dream of the nation is getting to be in turning into a reality. April on that. And on other side, a regulation, let's say, to which we would say that the willing, let's say 10, 20 pages. Yesterday, authority has approved a market commercial code that's 200 plus pages long. That would be telling you how we would be, what would be the role of entities, how we would be traded, what would be the capacity obligations. Like Dr. said, we have two products, let's say energy and capacity. Now, maybe in the future, ancillary services, maybe emission market also. That's a long way to. So energy, how the energy would be traded, how would be imbalances settled in terms of capacity and energy, and how the firm capacity would be given, and how the participant have to do a trade with each another. So the current structure for the discourse would remain as it is, as an regulated. The other most point is the trade we are caring for is an subsequent action. The discipline that we are carrying is the most important. Say, like in presentation showed, have he had approved any IGCEP in future? That is telling you after the 15 years, like when somebody gives credit to the, Imtiaz and authority and all together, we were simply 15 years late in approving the IGCEP. So what, scientifically you did it. In next 10 years, what you are bringing, today 65% on your imported, and coal today has been to the $300 per ton. And the local is on a $30 per ton, and your mix is 65%. Where are you? And the next 10 year, IGCEP now tells you you are completely indigenized. You are on the indigenization. So the mix you are scientifically adjusting it. When you're adjusting this mix, basically you are now, okay, you have the IGCEP now. Transmission investment plans. In next 5 years, you are going to invest 500+ billion on the transmission. So you have to have prior transmission system expansion plan. Had it been at place? Now it's coming. First time in when you approve this one, the IGCEP, then this one, okay, you have the generation is a resource. But we plan into a generator and then put a transmission line. Did we ask the DISCO how much you are able to sell? So there would be a power acquisition plan by the DISCO, like in the triangle of ISP, Dr. said, integrated system planning, there would be now a power acquisition plan that would be each DISCO telling their own demand under they are obligated under the NEPRA Act, Section 22 the last time they would be bringing that demand, and then the optimized mix that you have from the IGSF, you map it. Now, have he had a central auction administrator? No, we don't have. Now it would become a registered entity, AEDB, in its current policy role for the renewable, hydro, wind, and solar and bagasse, and PPIB in its role of a large hydro, and then altogether they would be. So auction administrator is big thing. The volume now you would be doing on the two things. The lease cost is coming from IGSF. Yes, it's okay. Lease cost. Should I buy it? No, I wouldn't buy it, but I would go for the bidding. There have to be a central one. So this is something the CTBC is bringing on the institutional part, the auction. So once you have a bid, lease cost mix already done, you have the competitive done, and then this capacity you buy on the request of the DISCO. So by that time, in the past, did this one? So this would be efficiency on that one. There was a one sentence that the failure is not an option. Nobody is now stopping you, neither the law, nor policy, nor regulatory. What else is going to stop you? I don't understand. And then the most important, there were the exclusivities for the discourse. On the network side, the Dr. side said that the winning point is the open access. The open access, the let's say long road is ahead. DISCO with wire and supply today, maybe in conflict of interest, but this transition has to be done ahead. In the markets, fully liberalized markets, the wire companies like Daksab in the middle said that the transmission and distribution network company would be in a monopoly, and then they would not be selling. The long journey is you had to start somewhere. If you would not have started with the CTBCM today, you would not have reached somewhere. So today you started. Now you would not set price, but you would be happy that every DISCO that is coming there, every DISCO license is expiring, though ISCO license has expired in the November, and they are coming, and all others are expiring in April 2022, other than TESCO and SEPCO. So that was the COD date. So now they would be getting the license according to the new terms, 2018. So the no exclusivity in the network. When the no exclusivity in the network, open access is open, even these zones and everything. You couldn't, Amreli still wanted to do their own plant and then take up from the wind. They couldn't because there was an exclusivity. In the ISCO, Bahria did already their own network. They was not supposed to do a business because ISCO said it was my territory. You had to carve out. But today, Parkview may come, get a distribution license, and then we are put now in a start that the DISCO has already a supply. There would be a supplier of last resort for them. If DISCO fails, DISCO denies. This is something new that market is giving. 20 years back, these options were not there. So options are opening. I may not be the long, but just on the responding on the, we are not transiting from the licensing regime. We are fully licensing the market participant, even the trader, even the supplier, even the market participant side. There would be the fully licensed activities, and all the regulations are public and being to be notified by the April. And for the service provider, they are all licensed activities. A two service provider even would be under the registered entities section 25 ADB PPIB. So that would be the contract regime would be the bilateral with the oversight that getting away the risk for the private sector. For the public sector, that regime is going in. So overall, this will improve the energy security in a sense. Country required to have in the next 10 years, 65,000 of the megawatt. Today, 36 is installed. So additional 32 government had to buy. Yes. And that has to be sovereign security. Now, energy security. Now, some of the demand we do bilaterally, no sovereign guarantee, anything, so security is coming. I have a 30%, 35%, 65 million of the people off grid. Earlier, somebody couldn't do a distribution, couldn't do a supply. Now he can get a supplier license, distribution license. The energy equity access to the people that gets to be improved. On the affordability side, for sure, if I don't buy from DISCO, maybe the expensive, I have now bilateral options open anywhere. I could then wheel the hydro from KP back to the third, maybe sometimes third energy couldn't will to using it in the Punjab, because all this network, I can build a plant. Competition, rightly said by Dr. is under generation. Why? Because consumer end tariff 65%, 70% includes the cost of generation. So the 20% is to the transmission and this one, and then your supply margin is 10, 15%. So on the retail side and this side you have to do, and naturally you are not supposed to do a plant, then transmission, and this is never a viable business. So competition at the generation side opens. Earlier people could put a plant, but they had a challenge for the open access. Now open access is opening, and then now you have the market demand over there, even though now if the disco is not supposed to sell to certain society comes, gets the license, and then they can bilateral, this demand goes off and this access improves and all together. So to me, last sentence is markets are a evolutionary state, not a revolutionary steps. Every country took 15 to 20 years, even the US markets, UK markets, Philippines started in 2002. Today they are into the retail. We have a step in the right direction with the wholesale market, with this 2,000 people given, which are the 16% of the energy we sell today. We all connected people of 180 or 60 million, 70%, consume 135 billion units of energy. 16% of that is the liberalized, that they have the option, they are the BPC. Why so? People are sometimes confused, and because it's the economic engine that you need to give an option. Because if you give the industry an option, if they go for a cheaper energy, options and choice, and then the cascaded effect of economy goes from your employment and exports and so and so, and that's where people started the baby steps. So rather than, and for going into the why there's no choice for the homes and all together, then you have a lot of infrastructure and this and this. And the last 2 points on the people, process and technology part, huge has been done under the CTBCM, like even today, let's say 10, 12 days, generation planning training is going on, in which all 16 entities are attending the same at the LUMS. School of Power Sector School of Excellence has been established, first ever in the history of Pakistan at the LUMS. That, and a huge budget NAPRA has approved for that one. The complete sector is being to be trained on that one. Multiple trainings on the demand forecast has been done. First ever in the history, Discos has put the demand forecast to the NEPRA, and that's to be being approved. Transmission planning, 2 trainings has been done, and output is that the transmission system expansion plan is on the technology part. The dispatch was a big black box of 36,000 megawatt was a big box. Now this is being automated. XDXP, system operator complete portal is there. You have the XDXP, the metering in the whole country. A committee goes, NTTC committee, test committee, everybody committee goes every month, takes the committee. Now you have complete on all CDP points of 685 points, the metering points, you have SMS metering project done. Now every half hourly resolutions you are getting this metering. When you would have a meeting, every time hourly marginal price would be coming that what is the hourly price of your generation in the mix. On the technology part is this one. So I think I take much time, sorry for that one, but few things had to be responded and end in mind. That's a justice start. It's the reality. Markets is a reality. Market is the need of the time, and market is the need of the common slogan. Regulatory framework completely supports it, and participants are very open. It regimes is opening, new licenses are given, all obligations are given. So this reality would come, and ultimate goal is to bring the efficiency, transparency, accountability, and this will happen, and this is happening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Shahir sir.
जी बस मैं आपका थोड़ा से वक्त लेते हुए कुछ अपडेट्स करना चाहता हूँ. I am heading the program management office of CTBCM for the last 4 years in CPPA, and as a program manager of CTBCM, I would like to highlight how much we are ready for this market, to commence this market, because the CMOD, that is the commercial market operation date, of the CTBCM is knocking the door on 1st of May 2022. So people might be concerned that how much we are ready to embrace this new change. So taking this opportunity, I would like to highlight some few important points. मैं बात शुरू करूंगा 2020 की दिसंबर 2020 की नेपरा की अप्रूवल से, जिसमें हमारी दो चीजें अप्रूव हुई थी। एक तो CTBCM का डिटेल डिजाइन नेपरा ने अप्रूव किया था, और उसके बाद सेकेंडली इम्प्लीमेंटेशन रोड मैप वो नेपरा ने अप्रूव किया था। तो उस इम्प्लीमेंटेशन रोड मैप के अंदर 19 ग्रुप ऑफ एक्शंस थे जो पूरे पाकिस्तान की पावर सेक्टर की एंटिटीज हैं उन्होंने मिलकर करने थे। अब मैं 19 की तफसीलात में तो नहीं जाऊंगा, लेकिन मैं उसको 3 मेजर कैटेगरीज में डिवाइड करके आपको बताऊंगा कि पहला उसका जो मेन कैटेगरी थी एक्शंस की वो थी अलाइनमेंट ऑफ द लीगल पॉलिसी एंड रेगुलेटरी फ्रेमवर्क। उसके अंदर जैसे मैं अपडेट्स दे दूंगा, कोई अपडेट्स के एक 90 ने अपना एक रिवाइज ग्रेड कोड, कहते हैं उसको रिवाइज ग्रेड कोड बल्कि वो न्यू ग्रेड कोड है जो बना लिया है बहुत ही एक्सटेंसिव एक्सरसाइज के बाद। इसके बाद एमओ के अंदर यानी मार्केट ऑपरेटर CPP ने अपना जो मार्केट का कमर्शियल कोड है वो बना लिया है, कंप्लीट कर लिया। इसके अलावा ड्राफ्ट ऑफ द एसपीटी कोड हैज बीन प्रिपेयर्ड, वो भी तैयार हो गया है। इसके अलावा जैसे हम बात करते हैं कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स की, जो हमारे PPAs हैं, तो न्यू मार्केट्स के अंदर जो न्यू मार्केट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स हैं वो दो चीजों में बाइफरकेट हो रहे हैं, कमर्शियल पार्ट अलग हो रहा है और जिसका कनेक्शन टेक्निकल पार्ट था वो अलग हो रहा है। तो जो 3 कनेक्शन एग्रीमेंट जिसको उसने बना के तैयार कर रखे हुए हैं। इसके अलावा PPIB और ADB ने मिलकर जो कंसल्टेंट हायर किया था, तो उन लोगों ने जो सिक्योरिटी पैकेज के डॉक्यूमेंट्स थे जिसके अंदर न्यू मार्केट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स भी शामिल हैं वो सोलर के लिए तैयार कर लिए हैं। इसके अलावा 7 एलिजिबिलिटी क्राइटेरिया रूल्स थे जो नेक्स्ट वीक CCL में प्रेजेंट हो रहे हैं, पहले एक बार हो चुके हैं, उनके कमेंट्स के बाद दोबारा प्रेजेंट हो रहे हैं। वो उम्मीद है कि वो अप्रूव हो जाएंगे। नेपरा की कुछ रेगुलेशंस हैं जो प्री कंसल्टेशन के लिए हो गई हैं और वो उम्मीद है कि वो भी बहुत जल्द अप्रूव होकर मार्केट में पब्लिश हो जाएंगी। इसके अलावा डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कोड है वो भी उस पर अभी काम चल रहा है और वो भी बिफोर CMOT हमारा टारगेट हम कर लेंगे। तो ये कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट फ्रेमवर्क के हवाले से थे, अलाइनमेंट के हवाले से। सेकंड जो इंपॉर्टेंट ग्रुप ऑफ एक्शंस थे वो हैं इंस्टीट्यूशनल रिफॉर्म्स, क्योंकि CTBCM इज नॉट ओनली टेक्नोलॉजिकल चेंज बट इट आल्सो ब्रिंगिंग सम इंस्टीट्यूशनल रिफॉर्म्स टू द पावर सेक्टर ऑफ पाकिस्तान। सो स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम एमओ कि हमने CPP के अंदर अपने दो बाइफरकेट कर लिया फंक्शनली। जैसे हमारा जो एमओ का डिपार्टमेंट है वो बिल्कुल सेपरेट एज एंटिटी काम कर रहा है वहाँ पर, और जो SPT से लेगेसी कॉन्टेक्स्ट को ट्रीट करना है वो सेपरेट हो गया है। इसी के अंदर रहते हुए हमने जो एमओ की लाइसेंस की एप्लीकेशन वो नेपरा को जमा करवा दी है। अच्छा, सिस्टम ऑपरेटर भी एक इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट होता है किसी भी होलसेल मार्केट का। तो सिस्टम ऑपरेटर की लिमिटेड रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग कंप्लीट हो गई है। एक इंटरनेशनल कंसल्टेंट वहाँ पर 3 महीने की डिप्लॉय हुआ था, उसने वहाँ पर SO की रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग करके जितने भी SOPs उनको रिक्वायर्ड थे फॉर द कमिटमेंट ऑफ द मार्केट ऑपरेशंस, सिस्टम ऑपरेशंस फॉर द कंप्लीटेड मार्केट, वो बना लिए हैं। इसके अलावा PPIB अपनी रिस्ट्रक्चर कर रहा है, उन्होंने अपनी जो है स्ट्रेंथनिंग प्लान बना लिया और वो इंप्लीमेंट हो जाएगा उसका फेज 1 जून तक। और PPIB और ADB ने दोनों ने अपनी लाइसेंसिंग एप्लीकेशंस नेपरा को जमा करवा दी हैं। ये बात फिर NTDC की बात करते हैं। NTDC के अंदर एक पूरा हमने डेडिकेटेड डिपार्टमेंट बनाया कि मीटिंग सर्विस प्रोवाइडर का, क्योंकि SMS प्रोजेक्ट इज अ कोर या हार्ट ऑफ द होल CTBCM। तो उसको स्ट्रेंथन करने के लिए हमने NTDC के अंदर एक पूरा डेडिकेटेड डिपार्टमेंट बनवा दिया है जो SMS प्रोजेक्ट को लीड करेगा और उसको फिर मेंटेन एंड ऑपरेट करेगा। इसके अलावा जो लास्ट लेग है वो है डिस्कोर्स। जैसे हमने जिक्र हुआ कि डिस्कोर्स काफी वीक है और उनके साथ इश्यूज भी हैं, तो वहां पर हमें रिफॉर्म्स लाने के लिए हर डिस्को के अंदर एक डेडिकेटेड 20 स्ट्रेंथ का एक डिपार्टमेंट एस्टैब्लिश किया है जिसका नाम है मिराज, मार्केट इंप्लीमेंटेशन एंड रेगुलेटरी अफेयर्स डिपार्टमेंट। तो जितनी भी अभी भुट्टो साहब ने इंटरवेंशन गिनवाई थी, जैसे आपकी डिमांड फोरकास्टिंग है, ट्रांसमिशन प्लानिंग है, बिजनेस प्लानिंग है, जो आप जितनी आप प्रोग्रेस देख रहे हैं वो सब इसी मिराज की बदौलत है कि वहाँ पर 20 बंदे बैठे हुए हैं डेडिकेटेडली, जिनका काम ही सिर्फ ये है कि वो मार्केट की चीज़ों को इम्प्लीमेंट अभी कर रहे हैं और जब मार्केट स्टार्ट होगी तो पोस्ट मार्केट जो उनकी चैलेंजेस हैं वो उसको काउंटर करेंगे। ये बात हो गई इंस्टीट्यूशनल रिफॉर्म्स की। अच्छा, इसी के अंदर ऑल्सो भुट्टो साहब ने मेंशन कर दिया कि हमने एक पावर सेक्टर सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस यहाँ पर क्रिएट किया है लम्स के साथ कोलैबोरेशन में, जिसकी सुबह डॉक्टर साहब ने बात की थी हल्की सी। तो उसमें यह है कि जैसे पावर एक तो हमारा एक वापडा के अंदर एक ट्रेडिंग का था इदारा था ना जो ये काम करता था, लेकिन वो चीज़ें टेक्नोलॉजिकल या डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन या ट्रांसमिशन साइड पे है। तो हमने सोचा कि इसी तरह का एक इदारा स्टेट ऑफ द आर्ट होना चाहिए जो मार्केट रिलेटेड ट्रेनिंग्स को लीड करे और वो ट्रेनिंग ऑफर करे, ना सिर्फ वो पावर सेक्टर एंटिटीज को ऑफर करे बल्कि आगे जाके वो प्राइवेट सेक्टर को भी इस तरह की ट्रेनिंग्स ऑफर कर रहा हो ताकि उनको पता चल सके इन्वेस्टर्स को। तो ये इदारा वहाँ पर कायम हो गया। लमसम पिछले हम 8 महीने से वहाँ पर कर रहे हैं और वहाँ पर हमने ओवर 500 पीपल्स को ऑलरेडी ट्रेन कर दिया है और काफी सारे ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम ऑलरेडी ऑफर हो गए। अच्छा, ये तो बात हो गई इंस्टीट्यूशनल रिफॉर्म्स की और ट्रेनिंग कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग की। जो लास्ट लेग में इसको इस पे बात करना चाहूंगा वो है टेक्नोलॉजी। अच्छा, इसमें चूंकि मार्केट है और मार्केट अब मॉडर्नाइज वे में काम करते हुए इसमें डिजिटाइजेशन और इंफॉर्मेशन डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन इसका एक इम्पोर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है, ट्रांसपेरेंसी। तो इसके लिए कुछ इंटरवेंशंस हैं that reside at the core of the market, which are CDXP, जो CPB का एक्सचेंज पोर्टल है, इसके अलावा SDXP जो सिस्टम ऑपरेटर का एक्सचेंज पोर्टल है, वो तक तैयार हो गए और उनका आज फर्स्ट मार्च थी, आज सेकंड है, कल से उनका ड्राई रन भी स्टार्ट हो गया है। अच्छा, उसके बाद है SMS प्रोजेक्ट्स के मैंने बताया ऑलरेडी कंप्लीट हो गया, डिप्लॉय हो गया और उस पर डिपार्टमेंट भी खड़ा हो गया है। और आखिरी जो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज, मार्केट को रन करने के लिए आपको एक प्लेटफॉर्म चाहिए, तो जिसका नाम हम कहते हैं मार्केट मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम। वो CBPA ने अपनी कोर IT टीम को इस्तेमाल करते हुए इन हाउस डेवलप कर लिया है। उसकी अभी है कि ट्रायल एंड टेस्टिंग चल रही है और वो अप्रैल तक, बाय टारगेट है कि अप्रैल तक वो पूरा तरह कंप्लीट हो जाएगा। तो बस आखिरी मेरी लाइन यही होगी कि तमाम पावर सेक्टर एंटिटीज जो है वो बिल्कुल अलाइन है, इंक्लूडिंग नेपरा, इस पे लीडिंग फेज पे है ये। और हम बहुत ज्यादा उम्मीद है, डिटरमिन है कि हम 1 मई को जो CMOD आ रही है हम उसको इंशाल्लाह अचीव कर लें। तो थैंक यू सो मच।
थैंक यू जी, फैसल साहब।
Thank you so much, Asaf, and I think it's a very right time. Okay. Thank you so much, STPI, for inviting me, and I think we appreciate STPI for holding this discussion because it's a very right time that the market is going to be operational within the next 2 to 3 months by 1st May, the target of commercial operation date. A lot has been said by Dr. Saab, Imtiaz Saab, Dr. Saab, and Shahi Saab. So I will not go into details of the designs parameters, but obviously as PPIB, we believe that it's a step in right direction. Although it's a late. We were going to start market by 2008, but then in 2015 the cabinet approved the concept, and then CPPAG with the support of international consultant, they prepared the initial design, which was approved by NEPRA. So now we are at the stage of like where we have completed number of tasks. As a PPIB, since PPIB is going to perform the task of a role of independent auction administrator, which is a very crucial task. And this is not very much different from our current role, because currently we are procuring capacity for CPPAG, a central power purchasing agency. But in the market, obviously, we will be procuring capacity through competitive auction process. And the major supporting documents will be, of course, the generation plan, which is least cost generation plan, as Dr. Saab had said, that we will have input from the IGSEP on the least cost, on the technology option, on the project selection. So based on that least cost generation plans input, we will be preparing procurement plan with the input from DISCOs against the capacity obligation, and we will carry out competitive bidding to fill in the gap against the requirement of new power generation capacity for DISCOs. So we are committed, and PPIB as an institution has been very proactive, pro-market and pro-reforms. So since creation, we have been implementing major initiatives of government, various policies, initiatives, reforms. And with the same commitment, we have been working on various tasks that has been assigned to us under the implementation roadmap approved by the NEPRA. And on a few of the tasks, I would like to give the progress status. Like we were assigned to prepare a generation policy framework. So that generation policy framework, the initial draft has been prepared with the working group that was constituted by Power Division, and that has representation from Power Division, from NTDC, from ADB, from PPIB. So that draft is soon going to be shared with the stakeholders for the consultation. PPIB and ADB was supposed to merge as a single entity so that to avoid the duplication of the roles, because both organizations are almost the same roles, only difference is in the technology, that we were processing thermal and large hydro, and the ADB was has been processing the wind and solar and renewable energy projects. So that merger will not only increase the capacity of the organization, but that will also avoid the duplication of processing, that will create an ease for the investors. So the bill has been already submitted to National Assembly, and that the merger is underway. And the third thing is that we were supposed to register with the NEPRA as an independent auction administrator under Section 25A. We've already submitted the application, and that application currently is on hold due to the preparation of market rules and regulations. So we expect that we will get the registration before the start of the market. And then we are also working on the security documents, because the CTBCM provides a variety of market contracts offered to the investors. So PPIB has engaged an international consultant, and that consultant is preparing the security documents in the support of PPIB and all stakeholders. Even NEPRA is on board, all other stakeholders are on board. So the first package of security documents for solar power plants has already been prepared, because the first round of bidding that is going to be carried out by the PPIB or ADBR as a merged entity, that will be a first for the renewable, because the IGSAP has predicted 10,000 of candidate projects, and that all are consist of the wind and solar. So first round of bidding will be carried out initiated maybe in next couple of months, and then by end of this year maybe another round of bidding will be started. So we are fully committed, and and the most important thing, that to perform that role, we were supposed to prepare a strengthening plan for PPIB, that how we will be operating in the new market, because obviously there will be a new market, there will be a new rules, policies, market dynamics, regulations, and we need expertise for the competitive market. So we have a strengthening plan in hand, prepared by international consultant, and through that plan, we have received input on the augmentation of our capacities, new recruitments, technology processes, online biddings. So that plan, as Shahid has already mentioned, that we have planned to implement the first phase by June this year, and then we will be gradually implementing the rest of the recommendation, because the capacity building, we believe that it's an ongoing process once we will be in the market. So we will be knowing that what kind of training and what kind of expertise we need. So with the passage of time, we will be recruiting the new professionals, and we will be giving the training and development to our existing resource. So I think that it's CTBCM is very crucial for the sustainable delivery services of the electricity. It will not only bring the efficiency, the competition, and transparency in the value chain, but I think it will also give a very positive signal to the investors, because you are going to automate the processes and bring transparency in the whole value chain. There are certain challenges, of course. It's a major reforms. Like we have long-term contracts, we have contracts which are 25, 30 years. But even that is again as a challenge, but there's also a strength in it, because currently we have sufficient capacity. So we are not in very hurry to hire the new capacity, but we can go gradually, and we can move away from these long-term contracts, from government guarantees. We can move towards a competitive auction process. We can move away from cost plus tariff. So this is right time to implement these plans and these reforms. And we are very committed to complete all the tasks within the given deadline. And I think only IGSAP, if we look at IGSAP, that Fiaz Sahab has mentioned, that document only has provided certain feedback and certain confidence to the implementing agency, even the PPIB, because before that we were not having a firm numbers on the demand supply projection. So sometimes you inject more capacity, sometimes you are in the shortfall. Right. So that has a very severe impact on the overall economic outlook of the country. And even with the constraint of the committed projects, the IGSAP predicts 61% of the clean energy. So that's again a country moving towards the clean energy transitions. And then if we look at indigenous number, we have 90% share of indigenous resources by 2030. So that's very encouraging for the even we can tell the international community that how the country is committed to move away from the imported and thermal fuels toward clean energy sources. The carbon emissions is going to reduce from around 356 gram per kWi to below 200 gram per kWi. This is a significant improvement. So with in future, we hope that the generation plan, the transmission plan, that will give you a very holistic picture for the future investments. We require around $40 billion of investment by 2030 just for the new projects. So once you have a firm demand supply numbers, the investment number, the procurement agencies like PPIB have a good input to design future procurement plan. The lungs, the CPPA, NEPRA, as a regulator, they are providing all kind of regulatory support. LUMS and CPPA, they are running extensive capacity building programs at LUMS, where the BPIB's professionals have also been getting trainings. So I think it's a very good. In the first time we have seen that there's a complete alignment between the institutions. So all are working as a one team. So that's good, and we hope that it's very crucial. We believe that's very crucial, and a very collaborative approach among the stakeholders is needed to implement all this plan, and that is underway. So we have very high hopes. So thank you very much.
I would just need 1 minute, because entities has updated all together, and we at NEPRA also feel obligated that this is task of very close to the hearts of the authority also. And this CTBCM is being to be championed and headed by the chairman, then Imtiaz Sahab, and then we are supporting Atakli. So we would feel obligated what we have done at our part in the regulatory framework also. The supplier distribution licensing regulations, along with the eligibility criteria regulations for supply and distributions, along with the one super regulation to which we call application, modification, extension, and cancellation regulation. That 5 regulations are on the state of notification. The second batch, like my friends told, that we have got this market operator, AEDB, PPIB auctioneers, and yesterday authority has approved it in ambit of our regulations, because rules and regulations are separate domains. Let's do not waste the time, and we are making it public for the comments on that one. The grid code that has been submitted by the system operator for approval, that has already been made public, and then it has come back. We have developed the comments on that one. Then there's a grid code review committee. It will go to that we are on in that market operator in licensing application, and its market commercial code has been approved yesterday also, and then we are making it public. All to package are 18 regulations, about 12, 13, 14 regulations, all are in public, nothing left on the NEPRA. The Bible of this sector is the procurement regulations, that's also out, and then we have the performance standards, and we have to have trader regulations, that's also final in second batch, and probably we anticipate within the March those would be notified. The NEPRA, this implementation and COD date is so close to everywhere, even because of leadership of our competent authorities and chairman, and we have been called at the PM office twice. The presentation over there, we went there, and then the PM office have had a direct involvement. The NEPRA do monthly meeting, the quarterly meeting, and fortnightly meeting headed by the chairman directly, to ensure that the things are done on right hand. And there is another layer of the monitoring at the policy level, chaired by the Secretary Energy. We call it MIMG, Market Implementation Monitoring Group, chaired by the Secretary and co-chaired by the Chairman NEPRA. And then last, we have done the 7th MIMG, and the 3 quarterly are done, 3 monthly are done in last 13 months. And then you count the weekly meetings, number would be longer and longer. So that's the level of synergy, as Faisal said already. And then all the interventions that are we are trying to implement the CTBCM as a real nation to come to.
We're really short on time, so I will now request Dr. Hina for her comments, and then we'll move to the closing with Dr. Rana.
Are you taking any questions? You're not taking any questions?
We don't have time to take questions. We have to start the next meeting at 2. So.
Thank you so much. First of all, apologies for getting late. I was stuck in for the longest period of time. So it was hard to get here. Thank you so much to all the esteemed panelists who have joined us from, very fortunately, to be joined by each of the stakeholders who are playing a major role in the CTBCM, and have very encouraging to see that how it would encourage not only power supplies but investments to bring, let's suppose, electricity prices down, and the framework, not only in the present but foreseeable future. We do see its implementation coming with a more strategic framework. I'm not very technical in this CTBCM, but what I would feel, just to mention some of the enabling factors that we feel, and when we do our research or we engage with stakeholders on these consultations, we feel is how to make the political commitments, as just been mentioned by Imtiaz Sabit, how the meetings are being conducted, how it's being taken up so seriously and so manageable in terms of quarterly meetings, monthly, being weekly, and having a very strong monitoring mechanism that is in place. A number of competing interests could also be unfolding some of the regimes that are already that we see in other sectors as well. Then the adequate network pricing, wheeling, independent network operators, unbundling of the sector, legal framework, regulatory framework. These are some of the major implementing factors that I could I could explore by listening to this discussion. So this is very, very helpful, and as the team is working on the publication, so I think this consultation, this framework, all of the inputs will be feeding into our paper very effectively, and will be giving a bright picture in the way forward. We at STPI, we have initiated this Network for Clean Energy Transition in Pakistan, and as Faisal Saab has already mentioned that this this initiative and this mechanism is also looking into how to decarbonize the economy. So this is actually the right step in the right direction, that we are looking into this network is mobilized to bring in all these issues that are currently being faced in the energy and the power sector of Pakistan, and how these initiatives, how the collective efforts can pave the way forward. We are very honored to have Dr. Fayaz with us on the network as well, and also Faisal, ADB, PPI, these private sectors, investors. So it's a very broader network with a great enthusiasm to work with us. We are very pleased to have NEPRA and CPPA also have us as well, and we'll be looking forward that they could join us and we can continue this discussion rather than just leaving it for this moment. Because now what we are mostly looking into foreseeing is the implementation. That is, I think, in April, 1st May is the operational day. So yeah, that was mostly from my side.
Thank you.
And, yeah, thank you.
I just want to add just a few words. I will request all who are here, STPI and other stakeholders, to be part of our consultation process. We do have public hearing, and it will be very information, not only informative, but will also help us to develop all the balance of the regulations and all these. You are all very important for us as a stakeholder. We can't say that we are the champions, but we try our level best, and the stakeholders are actually the champions who can point out the weaknesses in our processes, in our draft documents. So we will suggest, and it will be very helpful for all of us.
Thank you. So moving on, Dr. Bukar, if I can request you for the closing remarks.
Am I audible? Can you hear me?
I think his mic is low.
I think your mic is working.
Am I audible?
We're not able to hear you, sir. So can you speak now?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Maybe some technical glitch. Let me start by thanking all our colleagues who have joined here today. And I think the last point was probably the most important after Dr. Hina's intervention, which is an invitation to the public hearing. I think this is something which all of us should participate in, and in a much more prepared manner, unlike past. So this invitation is very welcome. The creation of a competitive market is, of course, an important step, and its implementation will continue to require in-depth consultation. And I think there has to be a mechanism through which this group and various other stakeholders can also contribute to the market implementation monitoring group, as was just mentioned. Now, for the country, and of course, because this is the concluding sort of session, for the country to really transition from a single buyer model to a wholesale market where power will be traded like a competitive commodity, requires us to continuously envisage how various inefficiencies in the system would also be addressed, how risk sharing between stakeholders will take place, how to keep the market flexible, of course, yet, of course, preserving the sense of competition. We have, of course, heard a lot that the new systems in place will enable the next round of foreign direct investment technology in our power market. And I think this is where the role of academia and think tank comes in. We need to continue to perform a comparative assessment of our model of competitive market with the global models, with the best practices, the academia and researchers, including STPI. I think we should all continue to map the evolving canvas of stakeholders and how the interests of these stakeholders continues to change. The role of regulator will also require some revisiting here. And while there's a lot of research out there, we also need to do our own research, how going forward a modern power market will serve our economic growth interest. And now investment in the sector cannot only just mature based upon this model, of course, and there are complementary policies out there which are still required in the industrial realm, in the taxation realm, which will continue to impact the efficiency of this sector and the end outcome. And one of those outcomes is of course, investment per se. My last, or probably second last point would be that the Network for Clean Energy Transition in Pakistan, which STPI has recently created, should continue to advocate and emphasize the need for energy transition through an evidence-directed outreach effort, ensuring a conducive environment, discourse environment for all, and create a buy-in for the relevant interventions which stakeholders have presented. And of course, for market reforms in the energy sector, wheeling policies and competitive trading contracts will, of course, play a major role in private sector engagement, in luring private sector engagement, not just locally, but abroad as well. Herein, of course, I think a continuous effort that this network could do is to really bank on the academic efforts, the current and future academic efforts of network partners who are available, and of course, some of them could not join today. We should continue to have a much more frequent liaison with them. So with this, I give it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bukhar. I think we had a very engaging audience as well. I can see 9 questions, but I think we're short on time, so I'll try to manage them over email, and I can, if there is a specific question required, I'll share that email with you. I just hope that CTBCM will be delivered, and of course, it will give us the outcome that we all envisage in the form of availability, affordability, and sustainability of energy. Thank you all for joining. And lunch is being served at the Mana restaurant upstairs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.